Hey guys, it's Dasher Zach back with another review. This time, a bunch of Pulsar mice. We've got a Zywoo Mini, X2 CrazyLight, we have a Tenz mouse, and of course, the X2F 5th Anniversary Edition. I have all these mice lying around. Pulsar has been releasing a bunch of bangers, and not just bangers, just a bunch of mice in general, so I figured, why not cover them and help you answer the question, hey, is it worth me picking up any of these mice? Let's find out. So here we have them, just a bunch of random Pulsar mice I picked up recently. I couldn't really figure out how to put on a screen effectively in slides, so I just decided to do that. We've got the Pulsar X2F, the limited 5-year anniversary edition, the X2 CrazyLight PRX, we have a Tenz mouse, as well as a Zywoo Mini. Pulsar has absolutely been slaying it lately, and each of these mice shines in its own way. Obviously, there are certain flaws, potentially the weight of the X2F, for example, but these mice are all bangers, and I wanted to cover them because I've got them, and transparently, I'm not going to keep them all, so I need to sell them before the value goes down. Side note, none of these were sent out for review by Pulsar. They were all purchased on my own dime. I did get a slight discount on this for reviewing the beta unit transparently. I still paid over $120 for this with shipping, but it wasn't full price. We'll start with the Zywoo mouse. This is the Zywoo Mini version. I actually have had the full-size version, and I do prefer the full-size version of this mouse. Full-size version is very much a palm mouse, although I could relax claw that. This, for me, is actually really tiny, so there's a lot of adjustability in hand, and I can claw, relax claw, whatever you want to do with it, although I'm not sure the mouse is really meant for that kind of a grip. I did like the stock skates on the Zywoo. They weren't too fast, too slow. This actually came with aftermarket silver foxes. I do think the aesthetic of the mouse is pretty sick, with a nice touch of like the red there under the clicks, the yellow under the button, and even Zywoo's signature itself, pretty cool on the top. I absolutely love that they put the blue shell pink dots in these mice. They felt perfect in the full size. In this mini, there's just something about the way these buttons hang and where my fingers click. If you're down at the bottom here, it's not quite as tactile. There's a bit too much pre-travel and a bit too much play, I guess, as you finish the click for them to feel absolutely crisp. They feel much better if you're doing like a claw grip, but again, just not quite as crisp on this as they were on the full-size mouse. I love Pulsar scroll wheels. I'm gonna love them across the board in this video. I'm not gonna talk about them too much. They're pretty great. These side buttons on the Zywoo Mini are so crispy, so tactile. They feel absolutely amazing. They're a decent size and they're not too far up on this mouse, just because the mouse in general is pretty tiny. And the white Pulsar coating is really, really nice. It's not rubberized in like a sticky way like the current like MCHOSE coatings are, but it's really rubberized. It's really grippy. It feels great. I do prefer their white coating to their black coating, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. And that seems to be a theme for me across most mice. This mouse also built like a tank, can't detect flux anywhere, and it is a little bit on the heavier side. I don't recall exactly. This mini comes in, 61 grams on the mini. I think the full size is about the same. Very odd that they weigh the same, but it is what it is. It might just be because this is an ergo mouse, but even for being this small, this 60 doesn't feel very heavy. Obviously, I'm on an infinite speed V2 pad. Maybe that wasn't obvious. So it's a very fast speed pad, but this never felt really heavy to me in hand in use. I don't perform my best with ergos, but I do perform nicely in tracking scenarios. This is a very stable mouse, stable shape with how tall it is throughout the mouse. Very like bulbous, sort of Thorn-esque, but not quite on par with that. As far as the shape of this thing goes, it does profile pretty similar to the Thorn this mini here, but there is more of a like taper here, and this part here on the back does jut out a bit further. And then it's just like a smaller footprint. You could fit this inside the silhouette of the Thorn. It's only 115 millimeters long, very small. So if you do like small mice and you want to like, you could fingertip this, which would be an interesting choice, but you can also relax claw. I can also claw this with 19 by 10 hands, but it's a little bit tiny. Like if you want to claw and get a lot of maneuverability, you can do that here, but it almost feels like a small hand palm mouse in its ideal form. So for a majority of people, you want to go for the medium size of this mouse. Again, the medium size was one of the most flawless mice I've ever felt. The clicks felt so good. The side buttons were just as good. Coating, build integrity were rock solid. I'm not an ergo guy, and I absolutely love that mouse. I sold it because I got it at a great price, and I felt bad about spending the money, so I made my money back on it, but I'm even regretting that now, and I am looking to pick up a white Zywoo medium in the future. Absolutely goated ergo shape, and honestly, kind of caught me by surprise. Next up, let's hit the X2F. This is the production version of the X2F. Again, I tested the beta version here, which was only a few grams heavier. This still comes in at exactly 40 grams. A lot of people are mad about that. I'll be honest, I'm not a fingertip user. I've been using this mostly for productivity because I don't usually aim with this kind of a mouse in game, and it does feel great for that, but honestly, this is really expensive. Even the standard version, very expensive to use for just like a standard productivity mouse and not in game. This feature here on the top, this like multi-level aiming, is not something that my hands and fingers can figure out how to use effectively, but I guess it's cool it's there for the aesthetic. The real gist of this mouse is they gave you some more skate options here on the bottom instead of just the dots. You can see I have these large pads applied, but we also have two more options here of just like the smaller pad skates, and then also some dots you can put that come with the mouse. They're not the fastest, not the slowest. These are more akin to standard old school like Pulsar X2 V2 stock skates in my opinion, but they're pretty high quality. Overall though, the gist of this mouse is it's just a more buttoned up, cleaned up version of the beta. The side buttons are louder, actually pretty loud, more tactile. The blue shell pink dots in this are actually heavier. A criticism a lot of people, including board Schwarzy and myself had with this mouse, this beta being a fingertip grip mouse, is that the clicks were a little bit heavy to actuate. You kind of want to have lighter clicks typically on a fingertip mouse, and these are more tactile even on the release version. I haven't used it a ton to the point where I would like maybe wear them in and loosen them up a bit, but still feeling pretty heavy. Honestly, very tactile and very, very satisfying as far as the implementation goes, but maybe not ideal for this kind of a mouse. Scroll wheel feels great, super spammable. Love the 5 years Pulsar on the scroll wheel. And again, the overall aesthetic of this, sort of the Gulf livery old race car theme, is super cool, but overall not a mouse that I would ever main or use effectively long-term in game. I will say it is built like a tank. It is 40 grams. If you want sort of like a stable fingertip grip mouse that looks cool, is very polished, has side buttons, and has really top tier sensor performance, another thing they buttoned up from the beta, this can be that mouse for you. It's just not the mouse for me. Next up, we have the Tenz mouse here. This mouse truly has the hump. I do wish I had the red version. This black version looks super lame, and as you can see, per standard Pulsar black coatings really does pick up a lot of fingerprints. If you thought the ZA13 or the Inca was the tallest, biggest back hump mouse, you were wrong. Tenz wants even more stability for his grip. This thing is bulbous AF. It will fill your palm right up, sort of like the X2H. In the medium size, this part of the hump matches the X2H profile exactly. It's just this mouse stays taller throughout the front of the mouse and has a relatively high click height here. This mouse is interesting. I have some Black Fox skates on there for what that's worth, but actually, like, for how big it is, does feel sort of like hollow because it's only 47 grams, which is a great weight. That's not really a bad thing necessarily. You're looking for lightweight, larger shapes. That's pretty impressive. It's just also not the mouse for me. I do like the X2H mini shape. This is just too big, too feeling too bulbous. I lose the ability to micro adjust effectively in game, and that sort of bothers me. I thought at first this was great, and it is for stability, which you could argue in a lot of games is sort of premium to like micro adjustments for a lot of it, but this is just, it's too restrictive. Honestly, maybe a Tenz mini would do it for me, but then we're just talking about an X2H mini with taller front height here, so that's not really great. It has a standard Pulsar scroll wheel. Again, these side buttons, Pulsar hasn't missed on side buttons in a while. They're pretty central, very spammable, very tactile. They're not sinking, and they feel absolutely awesome. I love these side buttons, love the shape. It's more like Razer Death Adder sized shape side buttons, which is a huge plus. This has the FE opticals, and I will say Pulsar has figured out how to implement these in a way that feels nice. Talk about the same here on the CrazyLight in a bit. I had the ATK U2, they felt like crap. The Terra feel pretty good, but not as good as Pulsar's implementation, and they actually felt pretty good in this ATK duckbill. I will say in the duckbill they're a little bit heavier and slightly less refined than they are on the Pulsar mice, but they feel pretty darn good in the duckbill. Coming back to this though, light, spammable. If you're not aware of these FE opticals, which are like tuned by Pulsar, they feel like mechanical switches, but they are optical. So I guess if you like mechanical feel, but you don't want a risk of double click in the same way, these might be perfect for you. This mouse does have minimal pre-travel, pretty minimal post-travel, not a lot of play here on the buttons at all. Actually, it's very well implemented clicks. I will say FEs just to me aren't the most satisfying, and they do feel a little bit better here on the CrazyLight, but they feel pretty darn good here on the Tenz. So overall, this is just a mouse that will fill your hand. If you're not a large-handed person, this is a palm mouse. You will find problems getting any amount of adjustability. You're going to get stability pulling it into your palm pretty quickly here. You're like a claw grip, so maybe a hybrid. Who knows? It might work for you. You probably know if you like the bulbous, tall back hump mouse. This mouse is unapologetically itself. And again, a mouse that I had to try, given my love for the X2H, but not one that I'll stick to long term. But very well implemented, as all of these mice have been. Last but not least, the legend of the CrazyLight. I'm going to take this grip tape off because it looks crappy on camera. This is the PRX version, and you know what? For the sake of comparison, let me grab the pink version I have up for sale right now, because I think there is a difference you will want to know about, and that is the coating. Between the standard colors here, like pink, it feels a little bit smoother and like rubberized and grippy, whereas this is just a little bit drier to me, a little bit almost like textured because of the print on there. Like plenty grippy, and I have no problem locking in with this mouse. No grip tape, it feels great. But if you like a slightly just like smoother, slightly more rubberized grip, you probably want to steer away from these crazy colors and go for a solid colored one like this or the white. Anyway, the background on the CrazyLight. This is the 36, 38 gram version of the Pulsar X2. Pulsar's shape that made them what they are, who they are today, in my opinion. It's back hump focused. This is obviously the mini size. That's all they have in the CrazyLight right now. Not too far back hump, very flat size, sort of a wide profile mouse here. It's just the all-arounder. I feel like so many people in the world could just grab an X2, a CrazyLight medium, a CrazyLight mini, and just be set for life. It's a really, really good mouse, and they've really refined this over the years. I do have some aftermarket skates on, but the stock skates on this felt pretty darn good. Again, Pulsar scroll wheels probably some of my favorite. And there's different encoders across all these mice, but they're all implemented very well. The click in all of them is very spammable. The scroll is never too heavy. There's always defined steps. And I really love how Pulsar just goes for it and just puts all these different sick collab, their own unique colorways in these mice to just make them sort of stand out from just your standard colors. Again, let's talk about the FE opticals in this. Clicks are very light, very spammable. They feel just like pristine. Like this is probably the best feeling implementation of FE opticals you're going to get. And I can report they feel identical in both of these mice. So very consistent QC across the board. I didn't find any discrepancies beside coding in either of these copies, which is really reassuring. They're both just retail copies. I've always wished the side buttons were just like a little bit taller here, but they're standard Pulsar side buttons. They could be like ever so slightly lighter, but I'm not going to nitpick that much. They don't sink in. They're well placed. They're easily accessible. They're the pill side buttons. They feel really good. Honestly, I've really enjoyed this mouse. As much as I think the X2 Mini shape is kind of boring in the best way possible because it works so well, it's a less boring GPX because it has a little bit more character. It's a little bit less of a potato. It's nothing I'll ever main probably, but it's something I definitely could main and main for any grip I might have. You can fingertip this mouse. I have 19x10 hands, but with my Psycho Relax Claw tilt grip, I can pull this thing to be locked in. Can't quite palm it. It just doesn't quite reach into my palm. I'd have to grab an X2 medium in order to palm it. But the CrazyLight is probably the most universal, the best implemented of all of these mice. We're back. I apologize. I recorded my phone and it died. Let's plug it in now. Let's get back to this. Performance-wise, your mileage will obviously vary because these shapes are pretty divisive. This is a very bulbous. This one's very small. Even the medium size, very bulbous, ergo very filling. Kind of restrictive. We'll see where it goes. This is a very tall hump mouse. This is obviously also not for everyone. A lot of these mice aren't ones that I would recommend like the standard person who just needs one mouse go out and get. They're very specialized, and that makes sense because they're made for a pro. And this is exactly the mouse that pro wants to use, not necessarily the mouse that everybody should use. So that disclaimer is important. However, the X2 shape is one that I would recommend. Just go out and get this. Honestly, it's a bit more expensive than like equivalent clones like the Madar, but the Madar's had uneven base problems. The Madar is using FE opticals that I probably less well implemented than Pulsar. Pulsar is a great company to work with. I've already made a couple mice back in their less reliable days of like the first generation X2H, but they were really great about it, and I got the replacement no problem. Shipped out really fast too. And then for fingertip, again, not a mouse that's for everyone, but a mouse I wanted to cover because A, I tested the beta, and B, there's a car in the box that has my name on it. That's pretty cool, right? That about wraps it up for my thoughts here on all of these Pulsar mice. Generally, my thought here is Pulsar is absolutely knocking it out of the park. It's really cool how they're doing like this pro series with the Zywoo, the Tenz. They have that JVC, I believe it is, Ergo, that's very narrow coming, or that's out. They have another mouse that's coming out that was just announced with another pro. Super cool. Pulsar's capacity to put new mice out right now is absolutely off the charts crazy good, and I'm really impressed with that. I don't know if you've watched the MouseCast podcast before. Check it out. We go live weekly. We talk about all the new releases, news, mice, blah, blah. Get your fill there if you're sort of a mouse addict like me. But we've did like a brand tier list before, and we put Pulsar in A. Mistake. Pulsar has done nothing but flawless mice since then. That was like the X3 time, and the X3 wasn't the best mouse, if I'm being honest. These are all perfect, basically. You can yell about the weight on this, but the implementation is perfect. These mice feel so good. The fact that they can just flip to like blue shell pink dots, they feel great. FE opticals, they feel great. Large mouse, lightweight, feels great. Good coatings, good everything. That being said, please subscribe and like if you enjoyed the video. Follow me on X at DashZach, and as I mentioned, check out the MouseCast podcast as well. That's on Manphalange's channel. You can also join up in my Discord where we talk about peripherals in a very chill environment. And with that, we'll see you.